Item 7.5, erratum, consideration of appointments to local area plan advisory committees, Cobb Mountain, Kelseyville, Lakeport, Lower Lake, Middletown, Rivieras, Shoreline Communities, Upper Lake, Nice. And we have received a number of applications and for each individual area plan, and we have Director Turner to present it.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Maria Turner, Community Development Director. The item you have before you this morning is consideration of appointments to what we call LAPACs, the Local Area Plan Advisory Committees. The LAPACs are a very important piece of the Lake County 2050 General Plan and Local Area Plan Update Project. And let's see, there are 8 planning areas, each with their own local area plan within the county. On February 2nd of this past year, the board did create 8 LAPACs, one for each planning area, with a membership of 9 members in each LAPAC. And the membership itself was customized in a way that is consistent with the communities. The local area plan is a community vision that is community specific, as opposed to being a county-wide community vision. The purpose of the LAPAC is to foster additional review and discussion of details of that community-specific local area plan. Table 1 on your staff report shows the membership categories that were established by the board on April 2nd. Wanted to extend thanks and appreciation to members of the board as well as the members of our General Plan Advisory Committee for the active recruitment and outreach that you've done over the last couple months to sort of talk to people about what a LAPAC is and to encourage public participation. It has resulted in a somewhat robust response from the community. We did collect a large number of applications all the way up until this morning. So you did get one final packet earlier this morning that included all the applications that we could collect until I actually left my printer and computer and came down here. Also want to extend thanks to the staff at the administrative office, because managing this large number of applications for 8 different boards or 8 different committees all at one time is quite a feat. So we had quite a team of people working on this. I take full responsibility for any errors you may find there. And there is one that I'll point out in just a moment. Let's see. The one error I wanted to point out was the applicant Roberta Lyons. I inadvertently put her in Lower Lake, and she's not. She's in Rivieras. The LAPAC meetings will start, next month. We will coordinate with each group that is appointed by this board to find meeting times and dates that are convenient for them in order to encourage the further public input as we focus specifically in and zoom in on details in each of those area plans. We will meet only as many times as is necessary to achieve consensus. And that time period is from August through the fall, because our project timeline is still to have draft area plans by the end of this calendar year. And with that, I happily hand over this hefty collection of applications for your consideration.
So I have a quick question and thank you for the presentation. For Mr. Guentavano, we do not have all of the applications online with the application process, and some are made public, and obviously the ones that we just received today is not currently public. Should we put that up on like a scanned copy of it on the screen so we can make it public, or is discussing the names good enough, since we're mostly talking about the names, but there is a little bit more substance to each application?
Your board may post it up online, the requirement would be to just have it publicly available. Certainly any member of the public who would want a copy of what was posted in the agenda, all the way up to current ones that were submitted this week should be made available to the public and copies to be provided upon request.
Okay. You sent us an email yesterday evening. You said you waited all the way till this morning. Did you get more
There were
between?
two that were not in the packet that I forwarded you this morning, but I did make copies, and there is a complete copy in the public binder outside.
Okay. What was that? Supervisor Green, you have your pen up?
Process question.
Please.
I'm looking at the main website. I don't see a news release. I was looking at Lake County 2050. I know we gave direction April 2nd to advertise the vacancies. I don't recall if we set a application deadline. Certainly, I understand the difficulty of herding cats and the willingness to consider as many applications as possible when you get them at the very last minute like today. I think it disadvantages the board, number one, but it also disadvantages the community. We do have one set of applicants that got their applications in timely, if there was a deadline set. If there wasn't a deadline set, I'm open to considering whether we should consider these late applications, but I'm not jumping up and down for the opportunity to do so. So question is, was there a application deadline?
Yes. The application deadline has moved a number of times depending on whether there was going to be quorum at a board meeting or whether the board meeting was going to be canceled due to holidays. And so we have, because it is so important that we have the maximum public outreach possible, we extended that deadline till the very last moment. And in fact, we're totally happy to bring this item back again, should there not be 9 members appointed today and the board would like to entertain future applications as well.
And I think that will be the case for at least some of them from the numbers that I can see. So I think it'll have to come back anyways to try and fill up the entirety of all of them. To me, the application, I'm happy to take whatever it is that we received. I would like to see if we can get a PDF copy up on the Zoom so that those that are on Zoom can see it at the very least. But I'm happy to move forward with all of the above that we've received.
I don't know. I don't remember. I would like to make note then that I did mess up on this packet. There is one that is not redacted. If you wouldn't mind using a Sharpie before you scan it, that would be awesome.
I'm going to ask the board, is there consensus to get this up on Zoom so we can have the public see who the applicants are, just like the rest of the applicants that are already on the attachments on the agenda, or is there not an interest to do so?
Up on Zoom or Granicus?
Well, eventually, I think it will get to Granicus, but right now, at this moment in time, the easiest and fastest way is to show it live with the audience, as well as, because the audience doesn't have this granted, they can go and get a copy right now. But those that have joined us over Zoom have no ability to access the admin office and get a copy at this moment in time.
I think we just, if there's a way to just put the names up, a list of the names, which most of them are in the email from last night, and then just add in the ones, so at least we have a list of the names.
So let's go ahead and take a 5-minute break, or actually, we could have a discussion while Johanna is gone.
So I
If we can get the redaction on that one, please, thank you.
There are no changes to the Cobb Mountain area plan.
well, I have some things I want to talk about first. That's fine.
Let's move on. Supervisor Pyska.
Yeah, so a couple, first of all, I've been working really closely with Director Turner on this timeline that keeps getting moved out to make sure that I have a lot of applicants. It's really important to me to have a diverse pool of applicants representing a lot of different sectors of the community, so that took a lot of effort. We, as a board, made some decisions on the categories, and I need some clarity before we appoint because, for example, what does environmental mean? That is kind of vague. I did have an applicant who put it on their application, and I would consider that person a business owner rather than filling the environmental role. Then the other question I have is the tribal role. I looked really, really hard to find someone from the Cobb area. I reached out to Chairman Simon and also Chairman McLeod to find out if there were any locally registered tribal people in the area, and I couldn't find anybody, but I did find an applicant who is affiliated with a tribe outside of the county but has worked for all the tribes. And then I have another applicant in Kelseyville, kind of the same thing. She works for one of the local tribes, but she's affiliated outside of the county. And so I think that we need to agree on some guidance on what that definition means. Both of those roles.
Appreciate the question. Supervisor Simon.
EJ obviously can speak on his behalf too, but from my point of view, if you found a tribal member, whether it's with the tribe here local or out of the area, I think that would fit the definition. Just as we do in our Lake County Tribal Health, we do serve natives that are out of the community. As long as they're, as long as they're a tribal person, then I'm okay with that. So you've been able to find that in your area, and I know there are a couple from neighboring tribes in different counties that do live in your district. So that's my opinion of it.
Yes, and in asking others if they lived in that area from different tribes, I think Upper Lake and Robinson, I remember when we go back to the Hitch, remember the Hitch situation when we were appointing the group for the Fish and Wildlife? We appointed from the tribal representation someone that wasn't actually native, but they worked for the native organization. So I also know that we've done that before if you can't find someone that's filling. And of course, if the tribe accepts it or the local tribes accept it. So that's another thing to consider. So yeah, just throwing that out there.
Okay. Well,
Similarly for environmental, but this is completely up to the board since these are created by you. These aren't by statute or anything. So I was looking for applications then that justified through experience or background of familiarity with environmental issues, so they could speak to those during the meetings.
okay, and then my final question, and this is a little bit stickier or complicated. The BVAC was created just a few months ago, and during the initial meetings to create it and bringing people together, Director Turner and I met with this group, and it was the understanding that the municipal advisory councils were going to fill the role of what the LAPAC is now. And so this group of individuals formed the BVAC with the intent of doing this work. And so I have 3 applicants from the BVAC who really, really want to do this work because that's why they got into this. So we designated 1 seat, but I'm wondering if we can give some leeway to allow these 3 to serve and to work through quorum issues, work through noticing issues. At the BVAC meeting last week, they were all, I kind of talked through how this could complicate things. They were all fine with working through it, noticing this as a BVAC meeting. Director Turner, we had some conversations, so I want to, I didn't want to speak for you at that meeting, and, you and I have talked about it, and you have some thoughts, and so I wanted to bring it to the board before we open up the conversation so that we at least have these markers.
The goal is to maximize community input while reviewing and vetting a number of issues in the area plans. So if a supervisor would prefer more than one, I am happy to work through Brown Act and noticing requirements. No problem. The more the better. And every voice is helpful as we work through this process.
Okay, I'm glad to hear you say that, because we did work really hard to make sure that the BVAC had this diverse representation. And so, I don't want to have to turn them down if we really need their input. So I hope the board will agree with this.
Supervisor Green?
Well, I appreciate what you're saying, I really do. I'm not going to agree with it. I have the same situation. I have 3 members of my Scotts Valley Community Advisory Council that are applicants. I'm not planning on making 3 appointments. I think to do so would burden the LAPACs with a de facto status as a community advisory council meeting, and I think it's to be fair, a conflation of interests. I also appreciate, actually, I do want to say, I do appreciate that you went through quite a process to understand the categories and do community outreach and try to get a robust set of applicants for what's before us today. But, I did not follow that same robust process. I don't know if our colleagues did. So it's really more of a process question. Again, if we're going to set a deadline, are we going to stick to it? Or are we going to keep pushing the deadline ad infinitum until we fill these puppies? I guess I would just like to focus on the process, but I reached a very different conclusion initially, at least, and I have not talked with Director Turner or Lloyd about this, but my belief would be appointing any more than 2 of my Community Advisory Council members would inherently burden these meetings unnecessarily with Brown Act concerns.
I will say that what is unique to this planning area is that it is the exact footprint of the BVAC and the Kelseyville area planning area. So I think there's a different reason why you would want to appoint different people in different seats, because the Lakeport planning area is broader than the Scotts Valley planning area.
So I think, I don't want to speak for the rest of the board, but I'm looking at Supervisor Simon and Vice Chair Crandall. I think we're going to look to both, since the BVAC is a mixture of District 4 and District 5. We're going to look to the 2 of you guiding what that needs to be. If it happens to be that it's exactly the BVAC, I'm in support of that. But if we're going to do a separate group and it has a plurality of BVAC members in there, then that becomes a strange Brown Act violation outside of the BVAC.
Well, there's 9 members that we're looking to seat. There's 5 members of the BVAC and 3 of them want to be.
If it's only
appointed.
3, then that would
It's
not be
only
the case.
3. We have 3
Then that would not be the case.
applications. But because that is a quorum, then they would have to be noticed as BVAC meetings. And that's kind of the extent of what it would be. And then all 3 of them have to show up. So there's a little that, they just need to understand that if one of the 3 don't show up and it's noticed as a BVAC meeting, then there's no quorum, then that community meeting can't happen.
And again, I will say that I'm looking to support what individual district supervisors who are in the area plan area to support what they are looking to do. And at that point, I think that maybe there needs to be further discussion between Supervisor Green and yourself on how to move forward. I appreciated the question about what are the definitions of the identified categories. I think that's something for all of us to pitch in and provide. And I like the responses that were given, so I have no further comment on that. But as far as the individual Kelseyville area plans, not sure if you want to finish that conversation here between the both of you, or if you want to bring it back after further discussion. Kind of looking at Supervisor Simon and Vice Chair Crandall, if that's the same thought process as well, that
I'd like
I'm
to hear
not
from
looking to
County
tell
Council.
Supervisor Simon what to do in the Middletown area plan.
I would agree with that sentiment. Whatever you guys need to work out, Jessica, trying to figure out how we're going to move forward. I know we were trying to attempt to do these where there weren't Brown Act compliant opportunities there. We could make sure that we have as much community feedback as possible, or input.
Yeah, I am bringing the wishes of the BVAC, and Supervisor Green has not attended these meetings. I've been there last week. This is what they feel very strongly about. So I'm bringing their wishes here today.
I'm happy to work with county council as we go through the process to make sure there are no conflicts with Brown Act.
Oh, I appreciate that.
I would like to hear from County Council today before this board acts, because I don't know for any fact that this can be resolved. Through wishful thinking or whatever the full desire of BVAC is, I still have a Brown Act. I still have a separate municipal advisory council that was formed for its specific purpose, and its specific purpose was not to substitute themselves in as a local area plan committee, even if there was some confusion on that point.
Its specific purpose is to work on the area plan, if you look at the bylaws and the resolution on why they were formed. And then we had a change in strategy after that BVAC was formed. It details in their resolution and bylaws, this is exactly what they want to work on. They want to work on land use, they want to work on all of these issues that are in this project.
We could
Mr. Guintivano.
Yes, so our office can certainly work with CDD in looking into this issue further. Because part of what's factored in here may be whether or not it would entail a change in the composition of the area plan committee based on what's being proposed. And there may be potential Brown Act issues if we're talking about a certain number from another committee being present at any meeting that may result in certain quorum or Brown Act requirements being that would be prompted essentially. So.
And just for clarification on that statement you just made, you're speaking about even if they show up as a public member for input and they're not members, that would potentially also create a Brown Act situation.
That's potentially depending on what's being discussed, depending on the communications, if any. I mean, if there were no communications whatsoever and that's the role, then there would be minimal, issues would be minimal as far as the Brown Act's concerned. But if there's going to be some participation, some discussions, then those considerations come into play as far as whether or not it's a discussion amongst a quorum of a committee that's taking place, whether or not it's taking place at a meeting or any other type of situation, right, or event. That's always a concern, something that needs to be looked into. And again, it may go to. Yeah, it does relate to the composition itself. What is before your board today, just as a sort of a note or a side note, is that what's before your board today is the appointment of certain members that's being submitted pursuant to the applications, including, if it's made available to the public, applications that were submitted up to this morning. So if your board is potentially looking at outside of that scope, things that are outside of that scope, then that is another option for your board, is to take it back with staff, coordinate with staff, and then we could perhaps bring it back with some recommendations at a future date.
So are the LPACs, these meetings, are they intended to be public?
They are all strongly intended to be public. They will be posted on our agenda website. We want to maximize the public notification. It'll also be on the lakecounty2050.org website.
Right.
Yeah.
So whether or not we appoint multiple members from a MAC, they could still attend as public members and still participate.
They'd have to be cognizant of their role as appointed members of a MAC, yes.
Right, but even if they're not appointed and they attended as public members and they gave contributions to the discussion, there could be a consensus formed, there could be.
And the goal is not to discuss items that may come before the MAC for their recommendations. The goal is to discuss the local area plan and its various community issues.
Right, but it seems process-wise that we have there is the possibility that there could be multiple members attending these meetings, whether or not we make those appointments or not.
Yeah, I agree. A quick question sorry, I'm diving a little deeper and obviously getting in the weeds, so I'm going to stop after this last question. What exactly is the consensus building that the MAC could have if it just goes from the LAPAC to the Board of Supervisors? Because yes, there might be consensus building, but what powers does the MAC have to make changes to the area plan? Because if it doesn't go back to the MAC for a decision, then they didn't consensus build for something that they're deciding on. Meaning, if everybody shows up from a MAC to provide input, but they're not members and it's not Brown Act noticed, is there really a consensus building when they don't even have the ability to make any decision based on consensus if it jumps straight from the LAPAC to the Board of Supervisors? Because the idea of consensus building is when you can come back and vote on something that you've decided behind closed doors or in an unnotified public meeting. But if they're not making any decisions because the area plan doesn't go back to the MAC,
But they are, my understanding is you're going to have the LPAC meetings, and then you're going to have another community meeting with the MAC at some point. I think that had come up in one of the.
So far, the plan, and the MACs are welcome to provide their own input on any land use planning project. We were not intending to go back and revisit every single MAC personally. But once the draft local area plan is out for review, they're totally welcome to review it and make their recommendations as they would any other land use planning effort. The timeline for the local area plans is the draft will be reviewed to the public, and then comes the CEQA review, and then the entirety of the general plans and local area plans will go through probably the Ag Advisory Committee, or the ones that are appropriate go through them, and then Planning Commission for their recommendation, and then to the board.
Mr. Guintivano, and I see Vice Chair Crandall has his pen up. If we can finish with Mr. Guintivano first.
So just generally, MACs, the municipal advisory councils, serve in an advisory capacity to the board. So that is correct. As far as any sort of formal action to be taken within the MAC, it falls within those parameters in an advisory capacity to the board. The committees that's under this identified in this agenda item are ad hoc committees as well, and I believe, unless I'm mistaken, they also serve in effect as an advisory function in an advisory body as well because they are an ad hoc committee. So as far as any formal direction or formal action being taken, it falls within those parameters, whether it's a MAC or the committees that's outlined in this agenda item.
I need to clarify the clarification. Does that mean that a consensus building can take place at a LAPAC meeting just by having more than a quorum of MAC members showing up and providing public input?
Well, part of it would depend on the function and role of those MAC members who are present at that LAPAC meeting. If they are coming as an example, if they're attending the LAPAC meeting on behalf of their MAC, then presumably there would have been a prior meeting within that MAC as to what would their input be for purposes within this scope of an advisory body, right? Of being an advisory body to your board as a MAC. So it goes to the function of what a consensus, the purpose and function of what this consensus building activity would be. But just the same, it is subject to that advisory role, even within this LAPAC, because it is an ad hoc committee.
I'm just going to complicate this a little bit more because both the BVAC and the CAC vote town hall. It is when they bring a recommendation to the board or any type of vote, it is not the vote of the appointed members. It is a vote of every person who lives in the planning area who is in the room. Yes, they're town hall votes. That's how it works.
Vice Chair Crandall.
You asked for my input, but you guys keep talking. And so I can give input on both. One, I wouldn't mind if you got to move back a week for that to get staff in line, because I still need more applications on my UL NIS. I don't have, I have 7 right now. I think I just got another one, 8. But the other thing is, within the past couple weeks, about past month, there's been folks that said I turned in, but they didn't get it. And it's not anyone's fault. I think they either just didn't know how to navigate the system and whatnot, or whatever the case may be. So I would like to give them just a little more time to fill in. Not to mention, I don't have a full 9, and I don't want I don't want to submit without a full 9, and that's Upper Lake. So if you want to piggyback off of that for the discussion with staff on what you're talking about, I'm open to that. Second, when you talk about consensus building, this is one of the things discussed in the Brown Act reform when they're bringing it to the state Senate and the Assembly is they were looking at trying to allow for Zoom capability because of the fact that they're non-decision making Brown Act bodies, which means they're just recommending to all of us, to us as board, what we should do, whether or not, whatever they're discussing with legislation. It didn't get passed. I mean, they just understand that there's a situation that they're really a non-decision-making body when it comes to municipal advisory committees or anything like this. And so that's why they're looking at that reform, but obviously we know that they're struggling with the budget and all kinds of other things. And so, let's see. Yeah, no, that's basically, I just wanted to contribute that way. That's why they're looking at that reform, because what are they really consensus building for? Because really it's just a recommendation, and either or it still comes here and it's a recommendation which anybody can still come to public input in the decision-making area plan or whatever's on the agenda when it gets complete, and we still have the, the decision-making capability. So I just wanted to add that. That's why they're looking at that reform. So I hope that helps. I don't know if it does, but.
Thank you for your comment. I think that some of the items on here could definitely use a little bit more time so that we can either get more applications, get these applications on the attachments for the public to be able to look at, and then to fine tune some of the specific groups as well that we're looking to create. And before I go back to Supervisor Green, I guess I will ask, are there any in here that are ready to be identified and completed so that we can say, okay, this area plan 1 is done. These are the ones that we've appointed. That way we can cross off some of these so we don't have to bring back the entirety of it.
Yep, we do have some.
Okay.
Cobb Mountain, Lakeport, Lower Lake, Middletown all have no changes.
And it looks like maybe Shoreline, since I heard Vice Chair Crandall saying he had one.
Yes, I have enough, more than enough.
Okay.
So we're not going to include the ones that were just received? Because I think with Riviera, we have enough if we include the ones that have been received.
And I really think that we can move forward with the applications we received. I would like to get them at least on the Zoom so we can get them shared with the public at the same time. You did speak to the name, but I think moving forward, if we can on some of these, is best than to postpone the entirety of it.
Good. I was just excluding ones that had come in later. So no, there are a number of other ones then.
Sure, please. Thank you. And I'm going to go with Supervisor Simon because I know we haven't heard from Supervisor Simon too much right now, and then I'll go on to Supervisor Green.
Obviously, in my 2, Lower Lake and the Middletown area plan, Roberta Lyons would be the only change in Lower Lake there, so she's going into the Rivieras, right?
Correct.
All right, so,
You got another environmentalist on the list.
yeah, so I was, just wanted to state that one. And then in the Middletown area, when I talked with Maria, it was ready to move forward with the names that we had on the list there. I think there may be one change down the road. Not sure if I'm going to appoint Fletcher Thornton, so I need to get some more folks put together and see if I can get a couple more folks in Middletown. But besides that, as of today, that would be the only change for my 2 districts.
Okay.
And Maria, that's a decision I'm making today.
I serve at the pleasure of the board. Whatever you guys want to do is fine with me.
Supervisor Green.
Okay, I'd like to remove the Lakeport Area Planning Council from today's agenda because we do have 3 Community Advisory Council members applying, and whatever clarity is going to come from your discussions with County Council, I'd like that to inform those appointments when it comes back. I also want to offer a solutions-oriented thing. When we did our kickoff meeting for the Lakeport Area Planning Committee, I did a full-on Brown Act agenda and brought the whole dang Scotch Valley Community Advisory Council right here to the council chambers. if only because I anticipated, even if I had two people that ended up on the committee, we may have other committee members, community advisory council members that may want to give their input, and I certainly don't want to shut them down. So it was a little bit of a lift, and it did require relocating our meetings from their normal location. But our bylaws also require our meetings to take place in Scotts Valley, so we probably screwed that up too. But just in a solutions-oriented thing, I'm open to the concept that if multiple members of a community advisory council want to serve on these area planning councils, they can do so, but we should probably adopt a process that to anticipate not just their active participation on any such area planning committee, but also their potential participation as a public member. And I think the simplest way to get around that is just notice area plan committee meetings that may involve contributions from community advisory council members in any way, shape, or fashion. Just be noticed as meetings with a very simple one agenda item, co-meeting of the area planning council. So that's what we did with our kickoff meeting. I think it worked out well. Director Turner, I think, would agree with that. And so when we do come back next week to talk about options, one way I think to foster that inclusivity that everyone is looking at and also satisfy the tenets of the Brown Act would be, let's just notice them as CAC meetings. So.
And what I would add to that is please also take part with the discussions with Director Turner and Mr. Guintivano to figure out specifically what needs to happen and what's the process for Lakeport. Because I think each one might be not slightly different, but it might have some nuances depending on the town halls that exist within. And so we said,
So are we okay moving ahead, making these appointments, or?
I think we're going to go one by one. If we're ready to make appointments, let's say, I think we need to look at each area plan one at a time rather than all. We're going to start with Cobb Mountain. If you are comfortable with moving forward with appointing, then I say let's move forward with that one. So let's start with Cobb Mountain.
So
Has there been public comment?
Mr. Guintivano.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Has there been public comment? I just wanted to double check.
So I would like for names to be read out for who would be appointed. We'll open it up for public comment. We'll come back, and each one will go ahead and make a motion and take action. And I believe we have no additions to the applications for Cobb Mountain, so there's no need to talk about what's on the, what's being shared on the screen.
Okay, so I would like to appoint Scott Ferguson at large, Elliot Hurwitz at large, Jessica Lytle at large, Christopher Nettles from the CAC, Kathy Prather at large, Michael Schaefer, tribal but also environmental. I see a nod over there.
Yeah.
Would be given his extensive experience. I think he could fill both roles. Robert Thomas is actually a business owner from my perspective. Angela Winchester at large and Kurt Winchester as a business owner.
Did you want to appoint Robert Thomas as business owner? You said he was not environmental, but I didn't get if you wanted to appoint him.
So there's 11 people that you listed.
Did I thought I had 9. Okay, 1.
You had
Yes,
two.
if
had
you
two
are
business
appointing
owners.
Robert Thomas, that makes 9.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have 9.
Robert Thomas?
Because I have 10 on this list, right? 1, 2,
You have 11 on the list that I can see.
10. I have 10 on this list.
Great.
The one on the memo?
So Michael Shaver both as tribal and environmental, and then Robert Thomas as business owner, not environmental.
I think so, yeah.
Great. If I could read that back to you.
Sure. We'll count.
Scott Ferguson at large, Elliot Hurwitz at large, Jessica Little at large, Christopher Nettles, CAC, Kathy Prather at large, Michael Shaver, tribal environmental, Robert Thomas, business owner, Angela Winchester at large, and Kurt Winchester, business owner.
That's 9.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any comments from board members on those appointments? Seeing none, let's open it up for the public. Anyone wish to speak on these appointments to the Cobb Mountain Area Plan? Seeing none, Let's bring it back to the board for action on that one.
I move that we approve the list just read by Director Turner for the Cobb Mountain Area Plan.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Kelseyville area plan, we're going to postpone on that one.
I mean, it seems like we need to have this conversation anyway about the max, but I have enough people to do it, but I guess it's just up to what the board wants.
I believe we have process issues to work out.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and postpone that one. Lakeport area plan, I believe, is being postponed.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Lower Lake area plan.
So trying to figure out all the names here, obviously, Marty Erberg, I'm gonna mess her name up there, I think that's her last name. That would be she has 3 titles. I don't know why she put Supervisor of District 5, but
We have her on the agenda as an at-large.
at large, okay. I'm good with that. Applicant name for Jerusalem is Vince Black, or Black Vince,
Vince Black is also listed at large.
okay? Ellis,
Steve Ellis listed as business owner,
excellent. Kendall Foltz,
also business owner.
Geneva Davis Lewis,
At large.
Adeline Leba, which
Tribal.
our tribal representative, native representative. Roberta is moving to the Riviera. Ed Roby,
At large.
Mike Salter, Ed,
His application says Middletown. Is he actually within Lower Lake?
yeah, he's in Lower Lake. He's in,
He expressed his offer
In
to work
District
in
1.
both Middletown and Lower Lake area plans. The board had previously clarified they wanted people to reside in those area plans, and that's why he's in Lower Lake.
Yep. Mike Salter. Mike Salter's just a longtime, resident in the area, obviously been there for 55 years, but I'm good with putting Mike down. I don't know what we'd put him under, but I'm good on having him in that group.
So good. So all 8 then are,
Yep.
thank you.
Did I miss one?
So you have 2 business owners. When the category calls for just one, does Steve Ellis or Kendall Foltz maybe fulfill one of the categories you don't have, like the Lower Lake Community Action Group?
Yes, that's what, wait a second. Yeah, they do fill that. I know Mike Salter does.
I will change him to the Lower Lake Community Action
Yes.
Group.
And then one of those 2, either Steve Ellis or Kendall Foltz, would be an at-large instead of business owner at that point for the categories?
So we'll make Mr. Ellis the at-large then.
Great.
That gives you 1 tribal, 5 at-large, 1 business, and 1 Lower Lake Community Action. And that leaves open environment.
So I'd like to make those appointments.
All right. Any comments on those appointments? Open it up for public. Anyone wish to comment on those appointments to the Lower Lake Area Plan? And I'll bring it back to the board for action.
I'd like to move to appoint can you read back the list?
Yes. Marty Ehrberg, at large. Vince Black, at large. Steve Ellis, at large. Kendall Foltz, business owner. Geneva Lewis, at large. Adeline Leba, tribal. Ed Roby, at large. And Mike Salter, Lower Lake Community Action Group.
All right. So move.
Second.
Leave you one short.
Yeah, I'm one short environmental.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the Middletown Area Plan.
Larry Glupe, which will be under tribal. Thomas Grassi, obviously, I don't know if he has any local businesses. I know he's a business owner, he attends the area town hall meeting. But I think we'll put him as at-large. Melissa Kinsell. That can be an at-large also.
The next one, Elizabeth Rudiger, had that asterisk because she lives in Lower Lake, but she wanted to be in the Middletown one where her business is located, so.
Yes, which is Jazzercise, so I'm okay with her being a business owner. Is that what you had her as, Maria?
I had her at large.
At large, okay, that's fine. The next one I'll be moving forward with today is Zeta.
Greta Zeit
Greta Zeit,
at large.
yeah.
You had one on the next page too, a math member or a math representative, Bill Waite,
Oh, where did I miss that? I didn't,
because the error in the putting it alphabetically is entirely my responsibility.
Okay.
Sorry.
all right, I'm good with that, Bill Waite.
If we can have that read back for,
Certainly. Larry Galupe, tribal representative, Thomas Grassi at large, Melissa Kinsell, business owner, Elizabeth Rudiger at large, Greta Zeit at large, and Bill Waite, math representative.
And Shannon Sanders.
And Shannon Sanders, business owner.
Yep,
You now have 2 business owners, but you have room, I think, in at large.
I'll go with an at-large.
Okey-doke.
and that leaves a environment and another at-large? Is that what it is?
I think it's environmental and at-large.
It leaves 1 vacant at large and 1 in environment.
Okay. But I'm good to move forward with those today.
Okay. Any comments, questions regarding those appointments? Open it up for the public. Anyone wish to comment on those appointments? Seeing none in the chamber, none in the Zoom room, bring it back to the board for action.
Would like to move to appoint the names read out for the LAPAC that we just went over. For Lower Lake, I apologize.
Middletown.
Middletown.
Oh, man, sorry, Middletown.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We're going to get this right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is Riviera Area Plan.
Okay, so we have 4 HOA seats. And we have applications from Bill Grudy, April Lieferman, Richard Smith, and we got one from George Bloomfield, who has at large, but I believe he is part of the Kelseyville Riviera.
Yes.
And then the environmental seat by Roberta Lyons. We have two tribal. I want to appoint them both, but one of them can be at large. Benai Cromwell and Katie Ray. And then at large, David Woodall and Bonnie Darling. That take us to 9?
Yes.
Yes.
To read it back for confirmation, Chair Cromwell, Tribal, Bill Grudy, HOA Buckingham, April Lieferman, HOA Kelseyville Riviera, Catherine Ray, also Tribal, Richard Smith, HOA Riviera West, David Woodall, at large. Roberta Lyons, Environmental. George Bloomfield, Kelseyville Riviera. And Bonnie Darling, at large.
Okay. Any comments or questions? And let's open it up for the public. Any comments or questions? And bringing it back to the board for action.
I move that we approve the list for the Rivieras area plan as read off by Director Turner.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is Shoreline Communities Area Plan.
So I have 11 applications, and I already have, I think I could fill all 8 or 9 positions, I'm sorry. So, and just with one quick question, I know that at large there's 4, but did we agree to an ag position?
The ag positions were added to Kelseyville and Lakeport on April 2nd, but if the board wants to change the categories.
I just thought, well, and I can just put at large, but I know that I'm just remembering we talked about Clear Lake Oaks having some ag as well, but I mean, I can just appoint at large one of the.
I think that if we wanted to change the categories, we'd have to come back for an
don't wanna do
actual
that.
change of categories,
I'll just appoint at large, and we know. So,
AKA agriculture.
right. So I have for at large, I have Amanda Collins. I'm not sure which town because it's redacted, so that's also why I chose, because I'm trying to be equitable in who I choose and where they're at. Kathy Herdman from Lucerne as at-large. Angela Amaral, she's in Clear Lake Oaks, but she's at Double Eagle Ranch. Rebecca Harper is the either ag or at-large. She's in Lucerne. Business owner, I have Amanda Gonzalez, Lucerne. Surf and Earth, I have Austin Pratt from Lucerne and Maria Kahn from Clear Lake Oaks, High Valley. Environmental, I have Holly Harris, who's at Clear Lake Oaks, and I have Tribal Robert Gary, Clear Lake Oaks.
To read these back, Angela Amaral, at large. Amanda Collins, at large. Robert Geary, Tribal. Rebecca Harper, at large, with ag in parentheses. Holly Harris, Environment. Kathy Herdman, at large. Maria Kahn, Eastern Regional Town Hall. Austin Pratt, Central Regional Town Hall. And Amanda Gonzalez, business owner.
Any comments or questions regarding those appointments? Seeing none, open it up for the public. Anyone wish to speak on these appointments? No one in the chamber, no hands in Zoom, bringing it back to the board for action.
So I motion to approve you'll read them off, or I can read them off if you'd like.
Again?
I can read them off.
I can, or you could just say you
I could
approve
do
the list as read by Director Turner.
I will approve the list for Shoreline Area Plan LAPIC as stated earlier, and the list that Community Development Director Turner has.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Motion carries. All right, and the last one, Upper Lake Nice Area Plan.
So this one is, I'm going to see if we can next week. I know that we have, I think, 8 at the same time. I know that there's been some folks that have been in contact with me within the last month and whatnot, saying that they got it in, they didn't. I just think they're just having a hard time with it. But either way, I really want to make sure I have enough to rather than just to appoint.
Okay. I can appreciate that. And I'm going to look, so we'll see some of these coming back. We have some additional places to fill, like, for example, in Lower Lake and Middletown, and others that we just haven't appointed yet that will come back altogether. One of my asks for consensus from the board is, Mr. Guintavano, if we can maybe get some help in better understanding how to navigate the fact that people who are already in the town halls are already people who are very interested in their communities and seeing their communities moving forward and will probably want to take part in these meetings. What is the process? Because we want to make sure that all voices can be heard in these area plan meetings that will occur without breaking any sort of Brown Act. What is our process? What is the easiest path of least resistance to make sure that those voices can be heard during those times? Is that a consensus from the board to get that assistance from our county council? Yes. And then the others who need to have more specific conversations, please follow up with county council and Director Turner to figure out what that process will look like or what the formation of those area plan committees will look like.
Thank you. If I could just request for people who are thinking about still turning in those applications, if they could do so as soon as possible. We do have a very tight turnaround time in order to get it up and ready by the posting of the agenda, so we don't encounter this after the posting of the agenda issue. But I also don't want to wait till the 6th of August because that's our second round. That's the first week of our 2 weeks of the second round of community workshops. And so it would be great if I could already have reached out to the LAPAC appointees to let them know that this is happening so they could join us for that as well.
So, and I can appreciate that. One of my issues with that is we do not meet on the 30th.
Exactly.
It is our 5th Tuesday, and the 6th is when you said you plan on starting on the 6th.
That's why I'm going to cash in a lot of favors with Johanna to make sure that we get everything available by the time she's posting the agenda.
Okay, so if we can try and push to get all of those applications turned in by close of business on Thursday, the 18th, at the latest, that would be great, so that we can make sure to either add them to the agenda that's already posted, or make sure that it's part of the posting of the agenda when it's posted. If that's possible, that would be greatly appreciated.
Just one comment. I have had a conversation with Maria for my two LAPACs that have been appointed, that we're prepared to move forward, and we'll fill those positions as they need to do. Don't let it slow down the process as we move forward. They're public meetings, and maybe what'll happen is the person will go to that meeting, then they want to fill it. So for my two districts, I'm good with moving forward. And we've got a lot of work to do here. We'll get it noticed, so I just wanted to say that.
Okay, thank you very much. Supervisor Green?
I wanted to offer support for your suggestion we cut off the applications at some point, but let's advertise it, right? Let's make the public aware that we're going to set a deadline for applications and enforce it, because we kind of balance the ideas of inclusivity and last minute things, but out of a sense of fairness to the general public that's just watching it and to ourselves. It's one thing to have a constant recruiting period and balance out the various seat categories, but you can also easily get into a perception that we're member shopping if we didn't like the original set of applications. So if we're going to set a application deadline, absolutely I support that, and I hope there's board consensus for that, but I would add to that consensus that we advertise that deadline to the community.
That deadline would be tomorrow or Friday. I'm not sure I can get an advertisement out that fast.
I would ask if it's possible if we could do a simple Facebook advertisement. That's an easy one to do. It does take time to make that happen. But between now and the close of business on Thursday, there's no way to truly advertise that. I'd say continue to do your own personal outreach. That's probably the best way to do it. You know who's active in the community and who you want to see in these committees. Reach out to them so that you can fill in the numbers that are currently lacking.
And then just one final comment. Oh, EJ, you had yours up.
Yeah, no, I just kind of want to respond to a comment made by Supervisor Green saying we would be shopping. There also is folks that have applied, but their application didn't go in and could assume the same thing that that there's, so I mean, it's a double-edged sword either way because those weren't accepted. And it's not that they were accepted or not. It's the first time we've ever did 72 or how many applications. So, I mean, it's a work in progress. And so I'm not intending to shop for anyone specific. I'm just I want to have enough to make the,
I would be happy to reach out to those folks if you want to talk to me after the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just final comment, and I have had this comment with Maria about youth. We need some youth on our group. Says we appointed a lot of names today. We're planning a community, but we don't have a lot of younger folks getting that input. So I'm going to try at least these last three that I got open to try and get someone a little bit younger. We're building a community for folks that we want to keep here, to stay here and to commit to our county. And I don't see much youth on these lists, and that is not a knock on anybody. But if you're building a community, you want to have some of those younger voices. We're going to live in the community for a lot longer than we are. So anyway, I'm going to try and push for those two positions. No, nothing on Maria. That's on me to try and find some young folks that want to be a part of this.
Yeah, and that's why I'm pushing so hard for these BVAC members, because they are younger members of the community. What I saw missing were family members, coaches, people with young kids. We got a lot of applicants from older retired community members, and that is not the type of diversity that we need for this community visioning. And so that's exactly why I'm pushing for this representation.
And I'm glad you mentioned diversity, because I know we talked about it when we conducted like other appointments, so like the Fish and Wildlife or the Fish Group. And in some of the areas, that's why I tried to cover with Shoreline specific, Clear Lake, because both of my area plans have Upper Lake Nice, Lucerne, and Clear Lake Oaks, which Clear Lake Oaks has a vast amount of different communities as well. And same with Upper Lake, they have Blue Lakes and Saratoga Springs, things like that. And so if it's Upper Lake heavy, then Nice is shut out and vice versa. So I want to make sure I have either amount, or something like that. So that's also why I want to make sure I get more apps rather than just appointing, a group of folks that could just change the dynamic for their benefit, and then Nice is cut out or vice versa.
Okay. I think that completes this
you.
item. If there's any clarification you need from us, please let us know. But I think that we've had a robust discussion here today.